Hello and welcome back. I'm Carly from Soundside Studios in Austin, Texas, and today we're doing a deck tour of a tarot deck I'm really proud of. It's a replica of the deck used in the 007 movie Live and Let Die from 1973. The movie features a tarot card reader named Solitaire, and I used this deck once at a James Bond themed party when I was dressed up as the character. So let's walk through this unique deck and see how it can be used today. Welcome to the prop used in the James Bond movie Live and Let Die. This movie was released in 1973, and the cards were created uniquely for this movie because the director and producers wanted to integrate supernatural themes into the James Bond movie, but didn't want to duplicate common occult stereotypes that were out there at the time. That's why they created unique cards to be used at the center of this film. But as a result, they didn't have time to complete an entire deck, and so this box set only contains the 27 cards that were used in the movie by our main character, our main tarot card reader and James Bond girl, Solitaire. She's the main character other than James Bond in this movie. This beautiful deck set comes with a note about what edition your tarot cards are and this beautiful velvet bag that the cards were in during the film as well. So it's screen accurate, as they say. These are also the original backs that you see in the James Bond movie. This is a bit of an Easter egg because it does say 007 on them. Modern cards that, well, these are new, but a different edition came out at another time that had blue cards. People didn't like them as much because they weren't as authentic to what was being used in the movie. So this is all still available for you to purchase, and I thought it'd be fun to go through this beautiful deck today. Welcome to the James Bond Tarot deck. Most people don't know this, but the original artist who was asked to make this deck for the movie was Salvador Dali. He enthusiastically said yes, and then asked for such a high price. The producer said, never mind, we're going to ask someone else. Therefore, Fergus Hall is the Scottish artist commissioned to make this deck. He was a middle school teacher at the time, but he did manage to get 27 cards done in time for the movie. This is a 37 card deck. We're going to walk through each of these cards so you can see which ones were chosen. The deck was later finished after the movie and then released as a full tarot deck with a couple changes, and now it's called Tarot of the Witches, and you can certainly buy that. Salvador Dali also did complete a tarot deck, and his deck is available for purchase as well. It was recently re-released by the MoMA, and I hope we'll do a deck tour on that next. Let's check out Fergus Hall's work for Live and Let Die, the James Bond movie. We begin with the Fool. Here we have a cat or a dog pulling down the pants of the Fool. He can't even see because his hat is covering his eyes. So that gives us this idea that the Fool doesn't exactly know what's going on and can't quite take care of themselves fully. It's a very childlike card. The character is still walking off a cliff, but doesn't seem scared because he can't even see what's going on. Our Magician has some unique tools. Instead of the 4 elements that we typically see or the 4 suits, there's a crystal ball and what appears to be a wand. I like that we also have a cat here, but this cat looks a little more scared. At least the Magician's confident. Here we see a cat at rest or at peace next to the High Priestess. So I think that communicates a different emotional tone where there's a sense of serenity with the High Priestess. And we have the star and the moon above her head the star and a sun representing polarity or duality that she can sit between and balance. And on her head is that crescent moon, often associated with the crown of Hathor, the Egyptian goddess, but certainly a sign of the feminine energy. That same crown is used on both the hat and the scepter that our Empress is wearing in the next deck. She is holding the world in her hands, and she's that representation of Mother Earth, the life-giving qualities of the divine feminine. Our emperor holds the world, but there are definitely some interesting marks here. Notice how on this world there's craters, on this one it's smooth. Sometimes our emperor gets a little bit too aggressive and can damage things. The Emperor card is a reminder to use structure, authority, and discipline in a way that nurtures growth and doesn't lead to damage, though at times, aspects of force are necessary for protection. We also have a beautiful balance of the sun to the moon in the crowns and on the scepters. Our Hierophant, traditionally a card about knowledge, wisdom, having a teacher or being a teacher to others. This character has a cat sleeping on his lap, so there's a great sense of peace, and a bird on his hand, so a strong connection to nature. There's a bird nest in his beard. His face does not look friendly, but in observing that symbolism around him, it feels like he is at peace and integrated into the ecology, into the components that go into life. And so though he's sitting on an earth that is, marked with these craters, I think he finds a way to experience peace in an unpeaceful world, finding a way to share wisdom and love and compassion in an imperfect experience. We move on to the Lovers. This card will be very popular in this deck. You'll see what I mean in a moment. The Chariot is far larger than the Chariot itself, but we do have these horses represented, so a reminder of needing to clearly steer those horses in the correct direction. The character has a lot of sun represented on his body, representing the more masculine component of being constant, having lots of light and vision and seeing where you're going. And then this fiery plume of feathers on his hat gives that sense of energy to the card. Our Strength card looks like a character from a carnival with the way he's dressed up. And he seems to be wearing glasses, but he's tearing a book in half. It's a great representation. I think it's very clever. It's both odd and surreal, but there's odd warmth in the card, I think. In contrast, we have the Hermit, also one with nature, with the bird resting on his shoulder, and he's writing, reflecting, not even interested in food, but truly having a moment of solitude and peace to reflect on what he knows and what he's thinking. The Wheel of Fortune. This card represents going with the flow, moving, letting things do what needs to happen, and allowing things to unfold as necessary. Here we see that representation almost like a carnival wheel, where we have aspects of celestial peace, we have heartache, we have overwhelm, and we have rainbows, and luck. So some interesting symbols that remind me of our modern day emojis, though this deck was made in the early 70s. Our Justice card, we have the beautiful crescent moon on her crown. She is balancing her scales, and she's standing on a snake with one foot and on solid ground on the other. And so trying to balance what's right versus what's wrong. And I would guess that her standing on the snake is trying to quash out evil influences or bad influences, though there's no mention of why these symbols are used. We don't have a little white book with this deck, so that's only my own guess. Our Hanged Man is a card about being patient, hanging out and waiting. We have these sweet butterflies around his feet. He's wearing bright colors, and he's even catching butterflies and reading a book. So he's certainly keeping himself busy with these innocuous, sweet activities, even though he is maybe not comfortable and not able to do what he really wants to do in life. He's still not missing opportunities here to live. The Death card is a bit shocking. I think this was a pretty intense card when it was used in the movie, because it is, I believe it was kind of more foreboding. So they did not soften this card for anyone's benefit. All the drama is here. We have snakes coming out of the skull, torn and tattered robes, and a grim reaper staring at you as the reader. Ooh, it's a good one. After death comes temperance, an opportunity for healing and balance. Her hair is fantastic. The butterfly angel wings are amazing. And I like that there's a rainbow flowing between the two cups rather than water. This is to me what I think of when I think of 70s art. After temperance comes some fun with the devil. This devil is crazy. Look at how we have one straight horn and one that's curled. Similar iconography that the high priestess had, but now the sun and the moon are reversed. Oh, I guess the high priestess had a star. So we do have celestial iconography that is continuing to be consistent in the deck, though it's not duplicating anything else. They're each unique. Different wings are here. We can see his tail. He still represents Baphomet, but slightly different imagery. No Adam and Eve here. He does seem to be surrounded by flames. Pretty surreal. Then we jump over to the tower. No one's falling out of this tower, but we do see the lightning bolt knocking the lid off, knocking our egos off. And we see the sun and the moon. It looks like something's about to fall. Coming over to the star. The star is like a person's face who's sitting in a cloud, sprinkling stardust down into the water. Delightful. I think this is beautiful. The moon is also up in the sky. In this case, stars are coming out of her nose, like she just sneezed stars. I'm not mad at all. It's just a unique choice. Then we come over to the sun. Underneath him is a bunch of rainbows. We jump to Judgment. You'll notice that there's not a full 78 card deck here. It's kind of strange, but we're along for the ride, right? So Judgment is still holding on to that idea of Judgment Day, with an angel coming down to graves, blowing a trumpet to awaken people, creating that renaissance. And we come over to the world. This world is sad. It feels like we're looking at the world from the moon. And I don't know what the intended representation was for this card. It typically represents coming full circle and ending things, but I can't help but feel a sense of sadness that something is complete, and maybe a need to accept that even if something isn't perfect or things didn't end well, we find a way to create closure and let go. That completes the cards available from the Major Arcana. There were some other cards that were added because of the plot. The Knight of Swords. This was used to describe one of the characters. I love the vibrant colors, the funky shape of the shield. That pink is so rare and it's so good. You just don't see pink and red often enough. Oh, the Knight of Swords was used to describe James Bond when he was first coming over. Then we have the Knight of Wands. Typically, the Knight of Wands is about having a passionate, fiery energy, whereas the Knight of Swords is about moving really quickly. So we do see a little difference in the way these horses are moving. This one is being more direct, and this one is just going up on its hind feet as more of a show horse. Our Queen of Cups has her cup, has her power. She has a beautiful crown, more celestial imagery, along with some stars in her hair. The Six of Wands was used in the movie to foretell victory. And the Six of Swords was used to predict that James Bond was coming over from England to the United States. And so this was used for plot development. And next up, we have 10 lovers cards. In the very end of the movie, this is how James Bond seduces Solitaire, the tarot card reader, by continuing to flip over cards in the deck and showing they were all the lovers cards. And that is what their relationship was about. So this is such a fun deck because it still has that excess of Lovers cards, and if you need to pull a prank on somebody, consider buying this deck. It's also a fun piece of Hollywood history to have in your tarot collection if you don't already own it. I hope you enjoyed taking a tour of the 007 Live and Let Die tarot deck. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. Make sure to leave a comment below about what deck you want me to go through next, and follow me on my socials to stay in touch. I'll see you next time. Happy reading.